Hi everyone, welcome to the West region again. In today's episode we're gonna make some more spooky Pokemon. Stick until the end to learn about some cool Mexican legends. Vampires. They have been a strong icon for Halloween and horror for a long time. When we think of a vampire, the first thing that comes to mind are things like this, or maybe even this. What if I told you here in Mexico we had our own version of vampires? In prehispanic Mexico there are similar creatures that share multiple characteristics with our idea of vampires. But let's start talking about Siwatatos or Siwatatos, which are some entities with vampire characteristics. When women died giving birth, they would go to the same place ancient warriors went, since for prehispanic people giving birth was the feminine equivalent to going to war, and it was a honorable act. When these women passed, they would revert in these entities called Siwatateos or Siwatateos, which were said to have pale and wrinkly skin with really baggy eyes and big ears. They used to wear feathered penachos, and a scratched cloth with pictures of bone skulls. As you can see, they have some vampiric character physically speaking, but the similarities do not end there. They were also said to feed from children, and when they finished consuming them, they would get paralyzed and would soon get a degenerative illness and die afterwards. They would also go away with the sun and only come out at night. So a way of getting rid of them was leaving offerings to them, like delicious food and stuff like that, where paths crossed. So they would get distracted and die with the sun, or just so they could fill their bellies with that and not with children. A very specific behavior of Siwatateos was finding an abandoned church or temple near a crossed path and pretend crying for the loss of their children loudly to lure people into their trap. Sounds familiar? When the Spanish colonizers came, they eventually interpreted this as the legend we know now as La Llorona. I've made a video about La Llorona too, in case you want to watch it later. I decided to use the Phantom line and make some regional variants for it. I'm also gonna give it a new split evolution. I chose this line because it's much related to trees and forests, and there are actually two legends about cursed trees. One of them has to do with a vampire too. Phantom's Pokédex entries also talk about how it used to be a kid that got lost in the woods, which fits with the child devouring of the Siwatateo, but also with literal children trapped in trees. We're gonna talk about that in a sec. But yeah, that's what Siwatateos are. And we're gonna start incorporating the bones, skulls, and penacho elements with the first stage. Instead of feathers, I'm gonna give it brown looking leaves, because I also want to give a very autumn-like vibe to this line. And here we have Western Phantom, a dark and grass type. Victims of dark magic rebirth in this Pokemon. Their voice sounds like children cries that lure people in the deep dark forest where they live among darker entities. For these shinies I wanted them to have Halloween looking colors. Here it even looks like a jack-o'-lantern. Now, for Trevenant, let's talk about the vampire tree that resides on Belén's graveyard in Guadalajara. Around the 1880s, people started fighting dead dogs and cats all around the area, and they all had something in common. It seemed like their blood had been drained from their bodies. Everything got worse when they found dead humans' bodies too, with the same characteristics. The principal suspect was a tall, skinny, and pale European man that moved there. This is interesting because it holds the vampire aspect we are the most familiar with. So the people got together and decided it was time to get rid of the vampire. They tried and tried, but it was really hard to catch. Once they finally did, a wise woman told them they had to stab him with a wooden stake to his heart to avoid him from reviving. They buried the man in Belén's graveyard with a huge and heavy stone slab to make sure he didn't escape in the case it woke up or something, but eventually it started breaking and a small branch appeared in there, growing from the stake that he had been stabbed with. The branch grew into a tree over time. Everyone was scared of getting rid of it. Even to this day, it is thought that if that tree ever gets cut, the vampire will be free to roam the earth again. That tree is still there and you can revisit it if you want to. It's a creepy looking tree even by just looking at it. Trevenant's Pokédex talks about how it eats people who chop down trees or disrespect the forest, but it is kind of Pokemon that live in its body. But I wanted this one to be more malicious and started by giving it big vampire fangs and adding cracks into its wood to show a greedier look. I wasn't sure of how I wanted the leaves to behave in this form, but eventually I gave it falling leaves to reference a very important tree from Mexico called Ahuehuetl, which we will talk about in the future. And they also look like ghostly chains. Wisdom Trevenant is a dark and grass type. They feed from the energy of those who step into their habitat. They use their branches to stab a tiny hole in their victim's body and start sucking their energy out of them. For the split evolution, I want to mix the Siwatatos with the legend from Aculco to keep the tree aspect relevant. Legend says there used to be a very beautiful woman with golden skin that wore a braid just so she could show her pretty face more, but even with all of this beauty, no man would dare to go near her, because she came from a family that was well known to practice witchcraft. She dreamed of being a mother someday, but through the years, no one seemed to want to have anything to do with her, so she started to find alternative methods, slowly descending into dark magic territory. Hatred and anger invaded her heart, and it only got worse when one day she overheard some woman laughing at her and saying she would stay alone forever. She didn't say anything and decided to take vengeance, making a deal with the devil. It was so loud that people outside could hear the woman screaming and a demonic voice replying. They were terrified, but apparently nothing else happened until one child went missing, followed by another and a third one too. Everyone knew it had to do with this witch, so they all went into her house to burn her alive. They knocked but no one answered, so they broke into the house. And a white mist spread as a chilling cold wind began to strike. People were confused and scared, and then a big creepy voice started to come from the tree in front of the house. It started cursing at them with hatred, but eventually it confessed she was the woman they once called a witch and told them she indeed kidnapped the kids for revenge. Someone gathered the courage and attacked the tree with an axe, but then they all gasped in horror as they heard a children scream from the tree in agony, followed by the witch's laugh. They understood if they damaged the tree, they would also make suffer the children that were trapped inside alongside the witch. So to this day, this tree remains there. If you stab something sharp in the tree, white tree sap will come out, but it will eventually turn red like blood. And if you pay attention, you will also hear the kids' screams and the witch's laugh too. What a creepy legend. It actually reminds me of that scene from Sleepy Hollow where Johnny Depp cuts a tree with heads inside. But now let's add some Siwatatos concepts and make a Pokemon. I wanted to have a feminine looking face with skull elements from the Siwatatos and some vampire fangs too. And I also decided to add a big mouth in its chest to trap Pokemon just like the children in the story. I gave it some cempasúchil flowers in the hands too, because I think they will fit the autumn-like color scheme. Root Parry comes from root and vampire, a dark and grass type. They hide in the dark forest, luring Pokemon into their mouth from its chest with cries for help, closing it and trapping them until they absorb all of their energy. Their hair-like leaves howls in the wind. This line has Unnerve or Harvest as abilities and Intimidate as a hidden one. If your Wisdom Phantom is female, she will evolve by leveling her up until level 20, but if she's a male, you can only evolve it with trading, just like the original Trevenant. There are more vampire-like creatures from Mexico, but we're gonna talk about them in the next episode, so subscribe and ring the bell to stay tuned, and you can see the video when it comes out. That's it for today's episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Comment down below what other Mexican legends would you like me to turn into Pokemon. And as always, the designs in this video will be posted in my Instagram account. There is a link in the description so that you can get there in no time. Thanks for watching, and see you all in the next spooky video.